Good morning. My name is Jesse Echepon, and if you're watching this fantastic program, this is the Vault Business Interview, which is part of the Vault Business Magazine, the amazing magazine that tells you a lot within the business enclave and also speaks to you about social intervention issues. Today, we are in the World Bank office, and the conversation is a very clear one. Beyond COVID or post-COVID, how is Ghana as a country accelerating itself within the short, medium to long term? And what kind of conversation is the World Bank having with the government of Ghana, and where does that leave you and me? And joining me on this particular interview is the country director, Mr. Pierre Laporte, who would take us through what's the conversation and the outlook and the view of the World Bank in Ghana is so far. So let's get into the conversation. Pierre, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. So let's start from the very top level of what the World Bank's assessment of Ghana's economy is today.
Okay, let's put things in context first. Prior to COVID-19, Ghana was one of the fastest growing economy in the world, with a growth of around 7% of GDP. However, like everybody else with COVID, the economy was very hard hit. And as you know, initially, there was a forecast of even negative growth in 2020. But the country finished on a growth of around 0.4%, which was already satisfactory. Mm-hmm. Going forward, as you know, we've gone through several iterations of revisions, and now the World Bank is forecasting a growth of 4.5% annually, starting 2021 and the medium term. So essentially, what we see, Ghana is one of the countries, at least in the region, that is emerging faster. I've recently talked to a group of different auditors and these big companies, and there's a tendency to see Ghana growing faster than predicted after COVID, but also faster than the rest of the region.
So during the COVID period, we had seen many countries attempt to borrow to try and maintain the stability that they need. Ghana's debt to GDP ratio today stands north of 70%, precisely 70.2% as at March 2021. In terms of the nominal value, we're talking north of 300 billion Ghana cedis, 304 billion Ghana cedis. Should we be worried as a country?
Look, first, as you say, it's good to know that even before COVID, Ghana's growth was increasing, which was already a sign of things to watch. And with COVID, like every country, the debt situation has grown, and today it's about 78% of GDP actually. Should we be worried? At this point in time, Ghana is considered a country of high risk of debt distress, which means, yes, we should be worried. I mean, it would be irresponsible to say everything is okay. But, having said that, we all know that countries need to borrow to grow, but countries need to borrow responsibly. So Ghana at 78% of GDP means there's not much margin left. And one way to also manage your macro economy is to try to grow faster. So the higher growth that we expect to achieve in the medium term should help Ghana at least maintain, within that acceptance level of debt. But also there are other things the country should do. We'll talk about it later in terms of growing your revenue base. Today Ghana's revenue base is too low for a country of its performance and level of development. So yes, we should be worried that Ghana cannot go much higher than where we are today.
Just for education, so high risk distress means what?
High risk of debt distress means that different countries can be at 78% of their GDP ratio, but one may be considered at moderate risk. It means if certain things happen, certain shocks happen, what are the probability that you will be affected in a bad way? For instance, Ghana being an oil exporting country, a commodity exporting country, it means it's vulnerable to external shocks. So if tomorrow, as you saw during COVID, oil prices go down, then this means the country is in more difficulty because it has less revenue to repay its debt. If the price of cocoa or gold go down, then Ghana will be in more trouble. So what we term as risk of debt distress is the ability of your economy to sustain shocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, speaking to that again, part of the things that the country did initially was to say that, look, what can we spend, basically, because you need to be able to spend what you raise or you borrow to spend, and therefore we had a Fiscal Responsibility Act in place. The advent of COVID, it seems to have been suspended, or we've looked beyond it because we had to stabilize the economy. Today, the budget deficit stands at 2.6% as of March 2021. What does that mean for us as a country from where you sit, the suspension of the Fiscal Responsibility Act?
Okay, for the Fiscal Responsibility Act, I think we need to accept it's an accepted fact today that countries could or should undertake what we call pro-cyclical policies. No, it means that during times when the economy is down, this is where even institutions like IMF are telling you this is the time to inject money in the economy to push recovery. So it's normal during COVID that government, suspended this act. I would have done the same if I was the finance minister, because we have to keep the country going. Having said that, pro-cyclical means also when you are in a good position, when there's a boom, you should save for the future. So yes, Ghana had to do it. Every country, went off their target. What is important is going forward, that the country gets back on track and seeks to go back to that trajectory of sustainable fiscal and debt management as soon as possible through the adequate policies.
Fair. You're still watching the business interview segment of the Vault magazine. My name is Jesse Ejapon, and my guest today is Mr. Pierre Laporte, country director for the World Bank, and we're getting into the conversation post-COVID and how Ghana can accelerate itself during the medium to short term. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. We're still trying to understand the Ghanaian economy from one of its critical partners, the World Bank. The World Bank has been a very phenomenal support and a partner to Ghana's growth over the past years. And the country director is walking us through a step-by-step of what the bank's view of Ghana's medium to long-term trajectory looks like. And we're getting into the next segment of the interview. So let's jump into the domestic revenue mobilization drive. And it's super important, and across the world, countries are being encouraged to ensure that we are mobilizing as much as possible internally. What's your view on our drive so far in ensuring that we are growing revenue domestically?
Well, the first view is that at 12.8%, revenue GDP ratio is not good enough for Ghana. Ghana is a country that has performed very well from different dimensions and is respected as a country, as an example for growth and development in Africa. So, first, the country can do better and should do better. And then secondly, if you need to find fiscal space to create more opportunities for social spending, you should raise revenues. If you need to better manage your debt ratio, as you said, which is rising, Ghana needs to raise revenues. There are several ways Ghana can do that. It doesn't mean that it has to raise taxes left, right, and center. Yes, recently there were some measures, announced in the budget, which will go some way in doing so. But there are low-hanging fruits that we call, such as the wide practice of providing exemptions. Exemptions is not a good way of managing your fiscal. Exemptions are important. There are times and contexts where, for example, in terms of attracting investment, etc. But it cannot be, widespread and, in a way that it sort of erodes your fiscal base. But also there are, exemptions are one. There are also things like how to be more efficient in collection of taxes. Again, no need to raise taxes, but make sure everybody pays and make sure that sectors pay the right levels they have to pay. And today, I believe that with tools like technology, digitalization, Ghana should use this, and we should see some improvements in the medium term.
Fair. So let me take you back to the first point you made. There are those who wonder the balance between tax exemptions today as an opportunity cost against the future inflows that may come if productivity is improved because of the exemptions. So how do you balance the two?
Look, you just need to be pragmatic. I'll give you an example. Let's say value-added tax. In many countries, we think we need to give investors exemption not to pay value-added tax because it will help them when they bring equipment, etc. First you can do is prioritize certain investments that are critical that may be exempted from tax, but not everything. And secondly, if you have an efficient value-added system with refunds that happen very quickly, you don't need to give me as an investor the exemption, because when I pay, if I say within a month, within 2 months, I'm refunded, then that's the incentive for me.
Then there's no need for incentive.
There's no need for incentives.
Okay.
All you need to do is have, like I say, a more efficient and modern system, which I know we're working a lot now with Ministry of Finance and other development partners also are working.
Let's touch on the elephant in the room across the world, the big elephant called corruption. Countries are struggling with revenue mobilization. Debt is crippling many countries around the world, and yet, you know, many countries are also riddled with corruption. So what's your view on that? In Ghana, we've heard governments speak about measures being put in place, empowering the institutions of states to work, setting up new bodies here and there. What's your view on what we've been doing so far as a country? Well,
my first view is that I agree with you that corruption, you know, erodes opportunities to give a better life to the people, because corruption basically takes away resources that should otherwise go into provision of public services. Now, in Ghana, I think the most significant thing is that the leadership itself recognizes that it is a problem and that it's spelled out its vision, including in the CARES, to deal with corruption. In terms of how we at the World Bank see it, we have several projects and programs that we are supporting government to build systems, because corruption comes in different ways. No? It can be fraud, it can be stealing money, it can be, like I say, through contracts that you get here and there and things never happen. So what we can do as an institution is first we want to see government take the lead in fighting corruption, because if government doesn't take the ownership, there's so much as development partners we can do. Now, what we can do, we can accompany those efforts. You mentioned, government has taken several steps to put in place laws, regulations, institutions, but these have to work. There's no point putting laws and institutions that then they don't work. So first, government has to see that these work. And secondly, what can we, development partners, do? At the World Bank, we have several programs where we're focusing on improving governance across the systems. For instance, in public finance management, we have 3 programs already underway, and we are preparing a bigger program to improve governance across the PFM system. We also are focusing a lot on, like I said, efficient delivery of public services. As an example, government can budget X amount of money to a certain ministry, and then you see that in the end, the beneficiaries in the villages, whether the schools or the hospitals, do not get the services. So for us, focusing on this aspect of governance is also critically important. Fair. Okay, so what I can tell you is that we are happy that the leadership talks about it and recognizes it's an issue. We are happy that laws and institutions are being put in place, but we want to see them work. And we at the World Bank, we will continue to accompany Ghana and the rest of the developing world in the fight against corruption, which is a very serious
issue. Let's go back a little bit. Ghana seemed to be on a growth projection pre-COVID. The economy was growing. COVID hit. We lost a lot of things. Businesses shut down, which meant that revenues wasn't coming in from a business point of view, which meant that we're not paying taxes. So internal revenue mobilization became an issue. COVID is still lingering around, but at least it's much better now. So economies are opening up. Ghana is opening up bit by bit. So from where you sit, what are some of the imperatives we need to put in place to ensure that we are accelerating beyond where we are today?
Really, first we need to recognize that during COVID, Ghana did not only manage COVID very well as a health problem, but there were genuine efforts to help SMEs and small businesses. We even ourselves in the World Bank, we had a few projects where we accelerated disbursements, such as our social protection programs, our economic transformation project, to make sure that we also assist government's effort. I think CARES is an excellent initiative because it really provides a platform for government to help the country and the economy gradually get out of the COVID pandemic. But going forward, we need to really go back to the fundamentals. One, for example, is the business climate reforms. We know that Ghana needs a private sector-led growth. We already talked about revenues not being sufficient. Private sectors who should be in the lead in growth in a country like Ghana. And today, as we all know, Ghana's position on the doing business ranking is not good enough. I say it's not good enough because Ghana is ranked over between I think 1 to 100 to 120 on the ranking.
Place of doing business.
Yeah, it's not about the ranking itself. It's about really what businesses feel on the ground. And today, if the ranking tells Ghana you are there, it's because the other countries are doing better than you. So government, one thing they should do is to go back and really look at the aspects of doing business reforms. They are doing it, but we are asking them to accelerate it. Another thing we won't discuss again is the whole aspect of revenue mobilization, because this will also provide the space for public investment. No, even though we want to see private-led growth, public investment is important for infrastructure and areas where private sector will not grow. And then, generally, certain areas that are proving to be bottlenecks for the Ghanaian economy, such as the energy sector.
Fair, agree.
We know that the energy sector has a lot of problems because, on the one hand, there's excess capacity that government is ending up paying more than they should, which is, again, creating the gap in fiscal space, because this is money that could have otherwise gone to give better health to the people. And then there's the financial sector, where there's been important reforms.
The cleanup.
But still things need to be done. And here I must, salute the efforts of the Central Bank and Ministry of Finance in pushing these reforms. So these are just some of the things that really we think it's important that government tackle as a matter of priority.
Okay, fair. So let's, I understand what you're saying. My view is that is the World Bank a little bit too conservative when it comes to Ghana and its projection? Because I hear you say there's a lot that we can do. We've got the things in place, and therefore we need to get the things going. As at June 2021, the forecast for Ghana was around 1.4% based on your Global Economic Prospect Report. Has that changed, and what's the basis for that 1.4 projection?
Yeah, as you know, forecasts evolve all the time, and especially during COVID, when the dynamics were changing very quickly. You could see different figures. Initially we were seeing even 2020 when there'll be negative growth. Then this was revised to, as you say, 1.4. But now the latest revision we're looking at internally is a growth of around 4.5%, even as early as this year, extending to the medium term. It could even grow faster depending on how the world economy picks up and developments and reforms going to take place. So this figure you mentioned before is now being revised.
Even though that growth potential is below the pre-COVID, it's still a good number based on where we're coming from.
Look, today countries who grow even before COVID at 3 to 5% are reasonably happy. But yes, you see, because there are things you need to look at. For countries that has high population growth, that are above 4 or 5%, is not good enough, because your real growth has always to be faster than your population growth if you are to have a per capita increase in GDP. So for Ghana, at 4.5% is reasonable given the context, but Ghana has a potential to go back to the 7% plus in the medium to long term.
Okay, we've heard. Let me move you to the building sustainable financing for the private sector or development. And we've heard a lot of arguments about the need for a developmental bank in Ghana, to have a national developmental bank. The argument is that it provides long-term, sustainable, affordable financing for major projects. What's your view on that? Is that necessary, and is that the right way to go?
Look, it is necessary to tackle access to finance in Africa. No, do any survey, ask any businessman, ask any SME, small people trying to grow, trying to set up something. They'll always tell you access to finance is a problem. And you put the finger where the problem is, not just only in Ghana, but in the region, in Africa, elsewhere in the developing world, long-term financing. Today, for instance, in Ghana, if you look at the housing market, there is a housing market because, you know, people have to take a personal loan to build a house.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do through this development finance project is to support governments drive to have this development bank, and in the process provide this medium to long-term financing that doesn't exist today. So basically, the development bank is filling a gap in the access to finance space that we are happy to support, and, you know, we are very happy also to see other development partners. You know, recently EIB approved about $170 million for that project, and I know that KfW will also come in soon. So it's a sign that we're not alone. We're doing the right thing, and in any survey of doing business, you know, access to finance comes up. So we think the development bank is doing the right thing there.
You mentioned access to finance, and I just want to come back on that. So if I gave you these three to probably arrange in any order that you might choose, access to the financing, cost of the financing, and the tenor of the financing, which ones, how would you arrange it? The access to it, the cost of the financing, and then the tenor of the financing?
I would say access is a combination of the two,
Okay.
tenure and cost. I would say both, because, you know, if you have a fairly high rate but you have a very long term, then you can live with it. But if you have a very short term with low rate, you can also live with it. What is not good is the situation now where tenure is low and rates are high. So things have really to change.
Government support post-COVID has been very drastic. It's been very positive across the world. Because the informal sector and the formal sector both need to be re-engineered to get us back on track. In Ghana, we've seen the government launch the 100 billion care or Batampa program. Some say it's very positive and it's an injection that the economy needs to get us back on track. What's your view on that?
My view is that it was needed, and it's good to see that government has presented a very structured program, you know. And for me, it builds upon the sort of emergency quick things that we had to do during COVID, both us and government. But also what is good to see from our perspective is that it tackles the critical areas where we ourselves, we're focusing, you know. I mean, industrialization, digitalization, human capital, access to finance. So we believe that CARES is a good program. It's ambitious,
yes,
because it's for a huge amount of resources, and also asking the private sector to fund it. You know, I think it's good. It's ambitious, and the World Bank is really very supportive of it.
We've seen a lot of work in the digitalization front in Ghana today. But let me take you to the first one you mentioned, which is support for industry. How would you see this happening? What advice would you give from the industry perspective? What should we do drastically so far as industry is concerned?
The first thing is to lay the foundation, which are the regulations and the incentives. No? You know, today I mentioned earlier the investment climate constraints. So if these constraints are overcome, it will encourage more companies to set up in Ghana. Then you improve infrastructure, you improve access to energy, you improve access to finance, and then you know, you give the right climate for things to come in. You improve internet, then you will see an acceleration in investment, in industrialization. Already, we've seen some very good signs of big companies coming to Ghana to set up. I'm sure other countries in the region would have liked to see that. So Ghana should build on that and invest in those fundamental elements that would entice those big companies to come. Another thing, importantly, is skills. And this is one area where the World Bank is focusing a lot, because we say Ghana wants to be up there. We want to attract the top companies to come. But when the top companies come, besides good internet, reliable energy, do we have the right skills set? This is an area where good to see governments focusing on, and we are very supportive of that. We have projects currently being implemented. We have projects coming, a bigger skills for the future project for about $200 million coming soon. We have regional projects to build IT skills So this is also a very, very important aspect.
You mentioned support, and that takes me to my next question. You've recently approved a $200 million Ghana COVID-19 Emergency Preparedness and Response Project, second additional financing for us. Are we likely, is this fund supposed to go into helping us procure vaccines? What's this specifically for? What's your expectation of this?
Yeah, as you said, just to recap, we already gave 105 million as the first batch. Then we gave an additional of 130 million. So this 200 million is going to focus mostly on vaccines.
Okay.
A large chunk of it, about 130 plus million, will go to acquire direct purchase of vaccines.
Okay.
And this we expect to help over 13 million Ghanaians, maybe more depending on what types of vaccine, 1 dose, 2 doses. So the bulk of the funds are directly procuring vaccines, but also we have to invest the rest of the money into storage, cold chains and stuff like that. And also, vaccines is not something that you just take and give someone.
Then the plug and play.
Yeah, it's a complex thing. From the moment you buy it, you transport it, you have the vaccine, then you have ensuring equitable access to vaccines. You have people who don't want to take vaccines. You have to have a communications campaign. You have to have all of this together.
Yes.
But to answer your question, yes, the big chunk is to procure vaccines.
Okay, so these are funds that you're paying directly on our behalf.
Yes.
Okay. Let's. There's always been a big concern on Ghana's debt sustainability and our payment on interest and how that's affecting our bottom line and all. These funds that you're making available as part of the preparedness and response project for the vaccines, is it a grant? Is it a loan? What is it?
Yeah, it's a loan. Ghana is a country that we call in the bank a gap country. We are blend country, gap country. I won't go into these details. What it means is Ghana has reached a certain level of development, and we have a formula that looks after things like your level of poverty, your GDP size, your basically stage of development. And Ghana, it will be a loan, but a long-term loan, very long-term, very, very low.
Very affordable.
Very affordable.
So if I say give me a ballpark, how much has the World Bank invested in Ghana so far in the fight against COVID-19?
We've invested around $465 million. Sorry, $435 million in Ghana.
$435 million.
Yeah. Yeah. The first batch was 105, then we invested 130, so 35, and now we're putting another 200 million.
So suffice to say that this 200 million is coming because you're happy with what we've done so far?
Partly, yes, but also because, the pandemic has evolved. First, we needed to come urgently to deal with the pandemic when it happened. There was nothing. We started from scratch. We had to bring more hospitals, bring more medicine at the time, campaign against, safe protocols, etc.
Social distancing.
Yeah, exactly. The second bit is because the first part of the money finished rapidly. Ghana is a big country. 100 million doesn't last long. And now, even the second project dedicated a small portion to prepare the foundation for the vaccine project, which is coming now. And now we are at the phase of vaccine, so that's why the bigger focus is on procuring vaccines.
So there are those who would ask what mechanism that the World Bank is putting in place to ensure that the funds are being used for their intended purpose. Across the world, we've had some countries in which there's a very huge variation between what the intention was and what the where the delivery is actually going into. How are you tracking that?
No, it's a good, important question because there are a lot of questions about how well countries manage resources, and what is good about the World Bank funding is it's an investment project funding, and when we do that, even though we are supporting the government's vaccine programs, we create a special implementation unit that is reporting to the Ministry of Health, but the resources are managed by teams that we set up with government, and the funds go in a special account where the procurements are agreed and disbursed as and when the right conditions are in place. So, and also we do biannual audit. We do at the end of the project we do completion reports to make sure that resources are spent. And if ever in any country we find that the resources that were put were not spent on things that they should have been spent on, then governments are required to reimburse the World Bank.
Okay.
It's happened before in most countries in Africa. It's happened before in Ghana several times, you know. But so we're hoping that this will not be the case here.
The World Bank has been a phenomenal partner to Ghana's growth so far. Let's go back a little bit. What are the major interventions that you've had to make in Ghana? What are you proud of, and what should we expect going forward? What's on your roadmap for Ghana?
Yeah, I know, as you've said, over the years, the banks have invested billions of dollars in Ghana. You know, early on in the early days, our interventions were really more focused on building infrastructure and things like that. More recently, our focus has been more on human capital, for instance. And now, as you know, one of the big challenges for everyone is climate change. So you can expect that more will be done in the climate change sphere, not just as projects, but in every project we have to do that. Digitalization today is an engine of growth, and we will be investing big in digitalization. We're currently investing big in skills, and also we'll continue to invest in health. Beyond the COVID project, we are currently working on an important project to improve quality and access of basic health services. So yeah, in the past, you know, we've invested in energy, we invested also in agriculture. We will continue to invest in agriculture because it's an important sector for Ghana, accounting for about 1/3 of the GDP. So going forward, you can see an evolution from what we did in the past. We've invested in water project. We have recently we approved a $130 million project. Previously was a smaller one. So yeah, we can talk about many things. But one thing though is the World Bank is being careful now not to go in every sector. We cannot do it because, you know, experience has shown that if you try to do too many little things everywhere, the impact is not the same. Whereas if you prioritize and you make bigger projects, then you have a better impact. So this is where we're going forward.
My guest has been Mr. Pierre Laporte. My French gets better every day, and today has been also a very good one. And my view of the discussion we've had so far is centered around the fact that Ghana's debt position needs to be watched. We seem to be at a stress threshold, and we need to grow the economy to be able to get out of that, and it's super important. The second thing is that from a vaccine support perspective, the World Bank's $200 million support for the country goes to help us purchase vaccines for millions of Ghanaians, and that's a very good partnership they've had with the government of Ghana. Again, the growth projection that came up in March 2021 of 1.2 or 1.4% has been revised by the World Bank, currently estimating Ghana's projection around 4.5%. Again, his view is that corruption is a very major thing across Africa, across many parts of the world, and it's important that the institutions of state attempt to ensure that it's nipped in the bud. And so far as our growth is concerned, he also touched on the government's audacious plan, the 100 billion cedi Care or Batampa program, and the importance of that in ensuring that the informal sector and the formal sector receives the growth that they actually need, and many others. And I'm hoping that by watching this interview, if you've got some questions, you can list the questions under the social media handles, and the team would forward it to the World Bank just in case there's anything that you might not understand. It's the Vault Magazine Business Interview Edition, and my guest has clearly been Mr. Pierre Laporte. Your final word, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me, and again, you know, the World Bank will continue to be there for the people of Ghana, because at the end of the day, we are there for the people. Government is an avenue, but the people, and our objective of eliminating extreme poverty. We know we cannot eliminate poverty,
yes,
but eliminate extreme poverty, and hope to have the country have a better shared prosperity for its people.
Thank you very much for your time.
Welcome.
And thank you for watching.